TikTok, it's time to rock. Welcome to the Sunday show, the Rankin of the Tracks, here with the Rock Professor and with the Backdoor Man. It's our pleasure to bring you our flagship show here on the channel. I have to say that because if I don't say that at least once a month, there's a rebellion. There's a revolution.
Yeah. Yes. This is the flagship show. It's in all the books.
Who rebels, Andrew? Is it the Rock Professor? Who rebels, does he?
A one-man rebellion. It's not really a rebellion, is it? It's just us dropping in the corner.
Oh, look, at the end of the day, guys, I have to say that because, this is what our channel's about, isn't it? We make no apologies, folks, for hanging out for 2 hours minimum talking about music, Brad. And every now and again, some of us get opportunities to play. We do have guitars that we play, but, the Rock Professor gets out and gigs regularly. But, Brad, you're a regular gigger, and you had a gig last night, bro.
I did. And it's a great gig at a place in Victoria here called the Hellhound Hotel, which is a classic old school rock venue in Melbourne. Out in the burbs, and it was a great show, big crowd. We tried a few new songs last night, which was good, and it was fantastic. Small, the stage is a bit smaller than it used to be, but we managed to fit on, and we had a great show. So it was great.
I'm glad, bro. It's always good to watch your posts on social media and also your band. What I'm going to do, and I think I've mentioned it before, and forgive me for being slack, I should put their Instagram name here as well. But if you want to follow Brad and his Rewind 80s band, folks, there it is there. Easy peasy Japanesey. If you're one of the new subscribers that joined us this week, one of the 60-odd that jumped on, we appreciate it. I urge you and ask you, please, to go and follow Brad Cook Music, easy peasy there. And you'll find Brad's YouTube channel. If you haven't found it on this channel, you'll find Brad's link to his YouTube channel on there as well. And also, I have to say this too, the Rock Professor is actually active recently on his Instagram.
Oh, well, I missed that. It's so very rare that you post anything, Simon. I actually missed it.
You probably got banned.
Got shadow banned, did it?
I don't know what. Was it that? Did I post that 22-second clip of us playing?
Yeah, something. I can't remember exactly. Don't ask me to remember exactly what it was.
I did. I got somebody. One of us in the band got some a little video of us playing, so I posted it. John said, "D's, it's like not enough. 22 seconds is not enough. It's all I got, John. I only got 2 hands and only one old brain. I can't film and play it. This is too difficult." No, this is stuff in the audience. So if you want to laugh, 22 seconds of us playing 2468 Motorway.
Wow.
Go and check out the Rock Professor there, folks, and support him and urge him along. Brad, talking about gigs and, doing great things over the last couple of days, did you pinch any licks from that dude that you went and saw a couple of days beforehand? Did you throw any of his licks in the mix, bro?
Yes. Well, I actually went to see Slash with my son, which was phenomenal, a great show. And I mean, what can I say? I'll answer your question first, Andrew. Yes, and yes. I did all I could to try and play like one of my heroes. He's a phenomenal guitar player, and he was so good to watch the other night. We got tickets that were fairly back in the rafters, I call it. Like we were sitting there for, I don't know, about a third of the way through the gig, and I said, they were tiny seats. I had a big fella next to me pushing me into my son's seat, and I was like, oh, you know what? I can't handle this anymore. I've got to get down and watch down the front. Yeah. So I said, come on, son, let's go down on the floor. And he goes, we can't get down there. I said, look, just trust me, we'll get down there. So we walked down, and we just walked through a couple of doors and down towards the floor, down the general admission. We just walked straight in. We went straight to the front of the stage to the left, and we were just standing there watching this guy. It's just phenomenal.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
And,
show some initiative, bro, and you did it.
And my son Elvis loved it. It was great. And what can I say, man? That Slash is just the type of guy that he just keeps getting better and better. It's not like he's trying to get faster or more efficient or whatever. He's just a phenomenal player, and he's just the years of playing and doing the rock thing. He's just such a good rock guitar player. He's so good. You can say what you like about people like Slash, but he's phenomenal. No, he's phenomenal, and I think he could play anything he wants to these days. He's just phenomenal. But he just does his thing, and that's what I love. He's Slash. He's not trying to be anyone else. He's authentically Slash. It's him as soon as he starts playing. It's like, man, this guy has got years and years and years of live playing under his belt, and he acts like it's all just a breeze.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing the guy's still alive too, because one of the greatest biographies, folks, and we've discussed this, haven't we, when we did his the Appetite for Destruction show, folks. You've got to read his biography. It's one of the best. It's gruesome.
It's one of the best I guess what do you call it, biography I've ever read, music one. It's fantastic. Yep. Well written, well put together, and we're lucky to still have Slash. He's got a pacemaker in his heart and everything. He's had a hard life, or self-inflicted, but well done. On behalf of the channel, well done, Slash. You did an amazing job here in Melbourne, and from what I can tell, all the footage and the reports I've seen of his tour here in Australia, phenomenal.
Cool, fantastic.
If you want a good example of what he's doing at the moment, check out his recent album, Slash. It's just Slash 4, for his 4th album with the Conspirators, Miles Kennedy and the Conspirators. Mate, that guy too, Miles Kennedy, guys. What a singer.
Yeah.
What a singer. Anyway, I could go on for hours about this, but yeah.
Cool. Fantastic. Yeah.
Rock Professor.
I have one thing this week to announce. On March the 1st, Roger Daltrey of The Who was 80 years old. Can you imagine?
Happy birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday. Happy birthday, Mr. Daltrey. Well done for reaching 80. Fantastic.
Wow.
Fantastic achievement. One of the greatest rock bands in the world, The Who ever.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was having a chat with one of my friends earlier in the week, and I showed him our channel, and he again, his name is Simon too, not far from the town where I live in. And anyway, he said to say g'day to you guys live, and one of the things that we spoke about, because he's a big Who nut, big Roger Daltrey, and who's the guitar player?
Pete Townsend.
Pete Townsend nut.
Player. Stand in the corner.
And we were talking about that, and you got to remember this, guys, that the Who were huge in America in the late 70s, early 80s. 80, 79, 80, 81. They were huge. I sometimes forget that, Brad.
Yeah. Oh, phenomenal band.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. They're bloody excellent. Their albums are phenomenal, really, when you think about it.
Live, they're amazing.
Yeah.
We don't have a lot of people hanging out with us live. We've got, according to Mr. YouTube, we've got
Yeah.
4 people watching us. So
Yep.
to the 4 people watching us, we appreciate the fact that you're hanging out with us live. And if you're one of the group, one of the people that watch us on a replay, again, thank you. We want to make a special mention to you, especially, and ask you please to hit that subscribe button. And I will attach Brad's channel on this as well. So I need to do that more often. I need to ask you guys to please support Brad on his YouTube channel.
Thank you.
I think that's all we got to talk about in the intro, lads.
I think
Can we
so.
do? Can we do? 63% of the people who watch this channel aren't subscribed.
Yeah, it's
like that.
it's about
Makes me laugh.
79 actually. It's a lot of people.
79. You see, 79% of people who watch this channel are not subscribed. If you subscribed, it's free. Only a second to do it. Then we'd have 25,000 subscribers. Look at us go. Top of the heap we'd be then.
Well, for a long time we never asked for subscribers, and then when we started, as you guys know, the history of the channel, when we started asking, we started growing. So one of the key things, if you're doing social media, ask people to subscribe.
Yeah.
Everyone does it. Everyone does
Yeah,
it.
everyone does it.
That's right.
Awesome.
There's no harm in it. There's no harm in it.
No, I watch a few channels, and that's they always ask. So you just got to remind people. It's all about providing a place where people can share the experience. Brad and Simon learn, have a bit of fun, and we hope that's what people get when they hang out with us.
Yes, totally.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
You want to do a shout out to the people anyway watching Rock Professor?
We've got Ellen. Good morning, Ellen, and John ZD351. So good morning, Ellen and John. Good to see you. Hope you're all both well. And yeah, we've got 5 people watching. If anyone else wants to say hi in the chat, I will say hi back.
Yeah.
And,
Awesome.
hi to everyone who comes later. Thanks for watching.
Awesome.
Supporting and being there.
I just want to do a special shout out to, while I can, at the intro, because I know that we will get some people from our Facebook group that will jump on and watch us from the Peter Green Fleetwood Mac Facebook group, because we're in a bit of a different time zone. So they tend to follow a lot of us, our shows here, guys. So if you're watching from our Facebook group, thank you. And again, hit that subscribe button.
100%.
8,100 members over there, Brad and Simon.
Wow.
Very good. Excellent. 8,000. Really good. Lots of people.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I hope you're all subscribed here.
Okay, lads. So the album that we're doing this week is Fleetwood Mac's debut album. It's also known as the Dust Can or the Dog or the Trash Can album. We've made a few shows, haven't we, guys? With Fleetwood Mac being the topic and the subject of a lot of our shows. Brad from guitars, Simon to albums, and we've also been fortunate enough to have a couple of authors and guys close to this book here on the channel, Bob and Jeff, join us. So we want to do a special shout out to those guys too, because if it wasn't for their interest in this band, guys like us and other people and around the world wouldn't be talking about this music that we find so interesting. And Brad, influential. We did Gary Moore a couple of weeks ago. Hugely influenced by this band.
Oh yeah. I mean, the reason I got into this band is because of Gary.
Yeah.
I opened my eyes up to this, and I actually hear in my notes, I've got it for one of the songs in particular. You can hear Gary's voice, where he got it from. You can hear how he's developed his voice from his vocal ability. I'm talking the way he sings from Peter Green. I can hear it. I was never really able to sort of identify it before, but after listening to this album this week, you can really hear it. You can really hear where Peter Green's voice was a massive influence to Gary as well as his guitar playing.
Yeah, I certainly look forward then to hearing what you have to say about the tracks. So, good point. I think what we have to do when we just talk about this album, it has to be up there with the Beano album, with as far as an example, Simon, of the British electric blues scene. You know, this album is hugely influential. It became number 4 in the UK when it was released. The band built upon this album with Mr. Wonderful, which we've ranked, and then Play On with Danny Kerwin, which we've ranked on this channel. So I'll include those links if you guys want to go and check those out. But the interesting thing about this album is that it was an album that was recorded after they'd been on the road for just a little while. But we know, and this isn't a history of the band, we've got a show planned later, guys, in the year where we're going to talk about the history of Fleetwood Mac and where they all came from and how they all got together. There's a lot of information, a lot of books out there plotting that, but I think because it's got all these different little aspects and tangents, Brad, it'll be a good show for us to do. Yeah. But and this intro isn't about that, but I think it's important for us to at least acknowledge that this band came out of John Mayall's Blues Breakers, Simon. You know, it was an opportunity for Peter to take that lead position as a band leader. He realised that was something that he needed to do when he was a young guy as well, and wanted to go and form a band with like-minded guys, but more importantly, not really to be the dictator as such. Not saying that John Mayall was a dictator, but everything was by the book with John Mayall. You know, it's well documented. You know, if you were late, you were fined. If you hit the bum note, Simon, you were fined. You know, there was no drinking, and you know,
bit of a James Brown, is he?
Yeah. You know, he took it a little bit seriously. But when Peter formed this band, you know, with John McVie and Jeremy Spencer and Mick Fleetwood, certainly was Mick Fleetwood and him at the start, it was going to be, I think, certainly a collaboration. And we see that, don't we, on this album between Jeremy and Peter, certainly, without giving too much away. But it's an album that came out in '68. It celebrated its birthday last month, Brad and Simon. That's one of the reasons why we're doing this album. '68, hugely influential. The single that was associated with this album was Black Magic Woman. Yes, that's right, folks. Fleetwood Mac did that song. And then obviously not long after that, another famous number that they did that I think it became number 1 was Albatross, Brad, which went on and influenced the Beatles, bro.
Yeah, but you need to also remember that Black Magic Woman's not on the album.
No, and it's typical of a lot of these albums at the time. You know, the singles weren't included on the album. So good point, bro. One other thing before I rank the tracks, guys, I just read recently, and I wasn't aware of this, but people in the press were defining this band, Brad and Simon and folks in the chat, as a Cream Part 2. You know, when you took into account, And I thought, okay. So I was reading the article, and I'll attach a link to that article if you guys want to go and check it out. And they said that, you know, when you look at the individuals that formed this band, you know, they had blues pedigree, blues history. They weren't slugs, you know. They came from, you know, established bands and had, you know, the musicianship to back it up. You know, look at Jeremy Spencer, for example, you know, playing his slide. You know, the guy's a master. He's a master at it on this album. And it's interesting because apparently Fleetwood Mac knew this comparison, so they purposely dressed down Brad. You know, they weren't dressing up. They purposely wore jeans and tennis shoes, as opposed to, you know, having a stage, you know, not a suit, but that's it. You know, that for example, Cream and a lot of other bands did. So, yeah, they did that deliberately. A little bit like the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, Simon.
Yeah, absolutely. That's an interesting. I must have. I don't think of Fleetwood Mac like that. I don't think of them as being Cream parts two. I don't hear that very much in what they do. And clearly, three guitars or two guitars is not quite the same, and certainly don't hear that. I mean, I feel like they're more of a continuation, maybe the Beano album and John Mayall's Blues Breakers, and I could see a connection with that, but I don't see a connection nearly so much with Cream. Much heavier, much. That's interesting. Yeah. I don't think I would have necessarily figured that particularly, but maybe that was then, and in looking back to it for the rose tinted glasses of 60 years, it's slightly different, possibly.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's a good point. It's a good point that I thought, you know, I don't think they were talking about Cream Part 2 as a comparison to Cream, but they were sort of talking about them being individuals from other bands coming together and maybe being the cream of the crop. And that kind of makes sense from that perspective. Guys, like I say, Mike Vernon, hugely influential producer. He's responsible for this album, producing this album, and more importantly, probably more responsible for getting Jeremy Spencer on board, because Jeremy certainly came and he was the salt on the steak on this album, and I don't want to give too much away for the rankings, but certainly a crucial ingredient in the success of this album. We got a couple of people that have jumped in the chat. Guitar Man 45, I've seen you in our chat a few times, thank you. And also we've got someone from Facebook, Brad, jumping on saying hi, so thanks for that.
Yeah,
Brad, you know, when I first heard this album, I was in my mid-20s when I first heard this album, but I had heard all the songs, Brad and Simon, because I had cassette tapes, you know, with all the songs. So when I finally got a copy of the vinyl, I was completely familiar with all the songs. So, you know, it wasn't something like, oh wow, you know, but having it and listening to it, you know, as a complete album was certainly something that I'll always remember. Hugely influential band in my musical development as a guitar player, but also as a music fan. Brad, would you like to let us know your experiences with this album, please?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm glad you picked it, Andrew, because I haven't heard it for a very long time. It's actually been many years since I put this album on in its entirety from start to finish. So it's the wonderful thing we do on this channel is like discovering albums again that we haven't listened to for a long time. And I love that. And I love that, you know, because with Fleetwood Mac, it's like, you know, Hendrix and the Beatles and the Doors to me. I only put them on infrequently now because I've heard them so many times, guys, and I want to hear different things. But the wonderful thing about this album in particular is, well, I discovered Fleetwood Mac through Gary Moore, so I'm hearing some of the stuff Gary Moore has covered through the years, put on record, put on live performances, and I'm hearing the blueprint, or what I like to call, you know, being such a big fan of Gary Moore, you know, the blueprint for where he's come from. And, you know, I think early Fleetwood Mac is phenomenal. I love this album in particular. The first time I put it on, I was a bit shell shocked because they sounded so American. I couldn't believe they were British guys. You know, it was that was the one thing that resonates quite, you know, strongly through this whole entire record, that they are British guys, but my goodness, they do sound like they are from America. And
100%.
you know, I think that's the biggest thing that I took away from this album when I first heard it, Andrew, and now still listening to it. But yeah, there's some magic on this record, and you can tell the majority of it is recorded live. I love that. It's a live record in the studio, and that magic that these guys had is evident because they're just playing and recording. It's phenomenal. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, bro. I appreciate that. That's wonderful. And thanks for making those connections. Thank you, Len, for the super sub. We appreciate it, and good to see you.
Yeah.
We ask you guys to go and check out Len Van Halen. He's been on our channel. He's been a guest here, and he's been a star at EVH Con. He's a Van Halen nut. Go and check him out. Good friend of the channel. Rock Professor, what about you?
Yes.
You probably bought the album when it came out.
I didn't quite actually, but clearly I can remember watching Fleetwood Mac on Top of the Pops and
Wow.
doing Albatross and Man of the World and Green Man Alicia and things, because they seem to have two parallel careers. That they got the album thing, which is very much the blues thing that we're talking about here, and then there are the singles, aren't there? Albatross, Black Magic Woman, Green Man Alicia, Man of the World, which are kind of different. They're not just straightforward blues things. They're kind of different, and seemingly back then had their own kind of identity, their chart identity, and then they had this very kind of purist blues thing. So the album we're ranking today, which made them a sort of a band of two halves. I didn't buy it at the time; it's a bit before my time. But I first heard this album in about 1980. I was around my friend Gerard, who's got thousands of records. He's very much a Fleetwood Mac, early Fleetwood Mac person. So and he played it to me then, and stuff. So I've known this album for a long time. Fantastic record as well. It was then I was kind of going backwards rather than going forwards, and as much in the 1970s or 1980, find out what I'd missed, which is always a joy. What did I miss? So I was going back into the 60s and stuff. Cream, Fleetwood Mac, all those bands that maybe I hadn't listened to straight away in kind of 72 when I started buying records and things. You were then and moving forward, not necessarily moving backwards very much.
Yeah. No, and that makes sense too. And thank you for that too, because you're the connection to that British side of the channel. The British Electric Blues. If people aren't aware, one of the reasons why the Rock Professor is on here as one of the main pillars on our channel, we got him on, and the first subject we spoke about on the channel with the Rock Professor was Peter Green and Fleetwood Mac. So, and here we are, years later, still talking about Peter Green and Fleetwood Mac.
Yes.
Yes, says everything about us. Yes.
Oh, look. Seriously though, it goes to show though the power of the music, doesn't it? And again, I'm going to pinch something that I said earlier in the intro, and something that Brad said, Simon. It's the influence that this band had, and still continues to have. You mentioned it too when we did Joe Bonamassa. Sorry, not when we did Gary Moore. You said Joe Bonamassa. You can hear Joe Bonamassa in there, and Joe Bonamassa talks about Peter Green as well. So, yeah,
he knows the subject.
Yeah. I mean, this sort of music's timeless, in my opinion, and I think in generations to come, they'll still be talking about the early Fleetwood Mac with Peter Green.
Yeah, I think the music is timeless. I think very much you can tell that it's a 60s production. It is a product of its time in terms of sound. I don't think there's any way this album could be made now. Unless you consciously wouldn't, but I don't think you would. But I think it's quite an interesting thing that if you listen to it, I'm transported back to the 60s straight away. You go, right, this is a 60s album. It has the has the production and things that you think this is from the 60s. It's not from the 90s kind of thing. Where we've done some Gary Moore stuff. it's not like this in production at all, is it? You know, in terms of the same. So we can get more into that into the tracks. It's interesting.
Can I just say one thing? The production on this record is great. It's fantastic.
Oh,
I mean, it's
absolutely. I'm not.
But it's fantastic. Yeah.
Oh, I'm not complaining about the production. It's just that, you know, you produce with what you've got to hand, you know, and probably done maybe an 8-track, probably a 4-track kind of thing, you know, and not, you know, and you can tell most of it clearly is done live. Most of it's, you know, then played together in a room, you know, putting them out, and it's, you know, it has a feel and a vibe and a, you know, an atmosphere to it that, you know, it's very difficult to reproduce now because of those things, you know. And Mike Vernon know what to do, and you know, it does sounds great, but it, you know, it is, to me, it's the sound of that of then, not the sound of now, and that's good, by the way. It's not, you know, not bad. That's not a bad thing in any way, shape, or form.
And I get exactly what you're talking about, and you know, it's certainly reflected in the guitar tone of Peter. You know that. You know, and you just compare his guitar tone on this album to Mr. Wonderful. It's completely different, you know, and then play on, you know, where he's got gain. And again, I'll show you a little bit that picture that I didn't have when we discussed Shrine, Brad and Simon. I've got that picture that I'll throw in when we do halftime picks, and it'll blow you guys away because I only found it recently. And it's a new one, so that's gonna get people talking. I think that's probably about all we need to sort of say about the album, guys. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think we should dive into.
Okay. So, folks. Just remember too, when we rank the tracks, it's always the original recording, unless we say otherwise in the title and the introduction. But it will always be the original recording. Yeah, if you're confused or you want some details about it, message me, message Brad, message the Rock Professor, and we'll give you that information. The Rock Professor, he's popping in and popping out because we all know what the Rock Professor likes to do when he pops in and pops out. So we just hope that when he's popping back in, he's okay. Oh! Tissue, see? Told you.
Apologies, I've got a horrible cold. So
okay, that's that's this week's story.
The sneezing and the blowing of nose regularly. That oh my God! See, that's what happens when my little daughter just brings it home for us, and then when me and my eldest have both got it, it's like my wife's had it as well. It's like, oh my God, the snot is horrible. The snot is real.
Snot a problem, according to John ZD351.
Yeah. Not a problem. Yeah. Not for you, it isn't, John.
We're going to kick off. We're going to kick off the tracks, folks. My Heart Beats Like a Hammer is the first track. What's really interesting about this track, and I didn't know this for years, Brad and Simon. I'll stick my hand up and I'll admit this. I always thought this was a cover. I think it was at least 5 or 6 years before I found out that actually it was a Jeremy Spencer original. And I remember being floored by that fact. So that's something that we're going to point a little bit out for you folks. There are a lot of originals on this album, which is interesting. So just give me a second, Brad. I'm just reading my notes. It's a little bit dark here. So one of the great things about this track, obviously, is that it's in the style of Elmore James. And if you know anything about Jeremy Spencer, that was his huge influence, and that was the reason why Peter in particular was enthralled by Jeremy when he saw him play. It was that experience, it was that background, Brad and Simon, it was that authenticity that he had in his playing that he wanted in his band, because at that stage they were about replicating that Chicago blues sound that Brad said to you guys that this album is about, and it's not disguised. These guys aren't disguising the fact that they are replicating what they perceive to be a Chicago blues sound, and they do it pretty good. It's a point worth bearing in mind too that before this, Peter was dead set serious to go to Chicago, but got talked out of it because he had this romantic version or notion about Chicago, and people were saying, "Look, you just can't go there by yourself." You know, you go there with people because Chicago was a tough place. I'm going to leave some space here for my colleagues. What I'm going to talk about on this song, though, obviously is the tone and the technique that Jeremy has got. And bear in mind, he's only a young guy at this stage. I think it's just fantastic. Elmore James Brad would be absolutely bowled over by this guy. And there's more to come, folks, on this opening track. The fact that it's written by Jeremy is even more special, and it's deeply rooted in the tradition that we love. I couldn't quite give it a 10 out of 10. I'm going to be pretty on point with my rankings, Brad and Simon, but I'm giving this a 9 out of 10 and a great track to open the album with. Brad.
Wow. Look, I think it's my heart beat like a hammer. It's a beautiful slide intro. That wonderful shuffle. It's got that real American, like you said, Andrew, that Chicago sort of feel about it. Wonderful vocal. You said it's an original song, and I noted that. I put great lyrical content as well, the way the lyrics are written. Really well done. The drums, the bass, really tight, really playing exactly what's needed for the song, actually. Simple, keeping it that real traditional feel to what they're doing, but it sounds there's an element of that traditional stylings, but it's got a real fresh sound, in my opinion, in comparison to what was around at the time as well. So they were fairly innovative with this recording, with this whole album. Really, when you talk about, was 68, Andrew? 68?
February 68, yeah. So,
Yeah.
Definitely early 68, yep.
Let's think about the other acts that were around at the time when this album came out. So it was fairly fresh sound for that particular time, in my opinion. The rhythm guitar track, it's really holding it together with that slide over the top. The sounds are fantastic on this record. I mentioned that earlier in the front end of this show. The production is fantastic. Sounds live. Obviously, if you have heard the one that's on Spotify, it's got a lot of studio chatter and things like that in the takes as well, which is cool to hear. But we're not talking about that on this particular because we're talking about the original release. The attack and ferocity of the slide solo is amazing. Like Jeremy's slide playing he sounds like a mature bluesman, like playing that slide the way he's playing. Maturity comes from experience, but he's a young guy, so that makes me think that he's done this before in a past life or something. I'm not sure what I'm going on about, but he's like an old soul in a young man's body, and phenomenal playing. I also gave it 9 out of 10, and never a skip, guys. Simon.
Sold his soul at the crossroads.
Yeah. I don't know how much I believe in, that sort of before being here before life, this and that, but mate, he's an old soul in a young body. So,
well, I think that's right. I think there's a couple of observations that I think is interesting. You start off with a Jeremy Spencer original, not a Peter Green thing. Peter Green definitely takes quite a mostly a back seat on this, although they do play at the end together. This kind of twin guitar thing. I think that as you say, it's clear the opening is like Dust My Broom, isn't it? Slides and things. So it's he's in familiar territory, but he does it so well. There's a whole cycle before the singing. You know, they do a whole cycle before the singing, which must be slightly unusual. Normally, you just do a turnaround and then you're into it, aren't you, as a singing thing? But I agree with you about the bass and drums as well. I mean, I think we could talk about them in more detail. McPhee and Fleetwood, you know, fantastic rhythm section, and know what to do, know how to swing, and know how to play for the song. But yeah, I did think it was interesting that I mean, I think it's the right song to open it. I think, as you say, it's got that very Chicago sound. It has that very, it's punchy, it's upbeat. It's got all the right elements to open an album. But yeah, it's a most you wouldn't start necessarily with you just thought you might have started with a Peter Green song, but no, it's the answer to that. You wouldn't. But yes, 9 out of 10 for me. Never skip. Great opening track with that Chicago blues feel, kind of full band going for it. Yeah, great stuff. Andrew.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. And Alan, as usual, who ranks
Well done, Alan.
with us in
Also,
the comments, has given it 9.5. So we're on target there. The second track, folks, is the Peter Green track, and there's a bit of a theme going on here between Jeremy and Peter that all of us have pointed out and identified, and I think it goes to the success of the album. But this is where, if you're a young person in 1968 listening to this album, you are going to hear Peter Green in all his glory in his own band for the first time with this track. And boy, that intro now 40, 50 years later, Brad and Simon, is unmistakably, undeniably Peter Green, isn't it, in that intro? It's just so influential. It's just, it's his trademark tone. I won't talk about the legacy of this tone. I'll leave that to Brad. I'm sure he'll talk about, but it's there in so many players. Brad also mentioned the masterful approach that he had in his vocals on his intro, so I'm going to chip in here and say, Peter sings beautifully, and there's not a track on this album where he's not singing out of his skin. Definitely taken his role as a vocalist on this album very, very seriously, Brad, and you can hear his voice, Simon. So this goes back to the rock professor saying, the way that it's recorded, you can hear him intonate in his voice. It's just a wonderful recording. Vernon was trying to capture the essence of this band again, and I think he caught it. He caught this band, and these two tracks. It's unmistakable. It's a game changer of a track for me, but also it's a game changer of a track for history. It's a phenomenal track. I've given this 10 out of 10. It can't be anything less, in my opinion. Brad.
Wow, yeah, merry-go-round. Absolutely beautiful guitar intro. The guitar playing gives me goosebumps. It's moving, it's haunting. The bass line with that sort of moving bass line is sensational. The drums on the ride cymbal, guys, it's not on the hi-hat, it's on that ride. It's very swing big band sort of feel, which is phenomenal. I love that stuff. Yeah, this is an absolute classic Fleetwood Mac song, in my opinion. The vocal delivery from Peter Green is phenomenal, and I will be probably repeating myself a few times here, which I hope you guys don't mind, but
it's okay.
One of my idols, one of my heroes, I don't like the word idol, one of my heroes, Gary Moore, you can hear where he gets his approach from the guitar and vocals from Peter Green. So obviously one of his biggest heroes was the phenomenal Peter Green. The solo on this is unbelievable. There's so much space in the phrasing. The tone of the guitar sounds like it's weeping. He's talking through the guitar. He's giving that feeling through the guitar. We're blessed with the wonderful tone of the historical Greenie Les Paul here. I'm 99.95% sure it's Greenie. I don't know whether anyone can correct me there, because I can tell it's Greeny by the tone.
He had no other guitar, bro.
Well, that's it. That's
Yep.
what it was. Yes. Well, that's what it is, unless he borrowed something else. But that's what I'm assuming it is. And this is British electric blues at its best. I love it. I gave it a 100 out of 10. Never a skip, guys.
Ooh,
Simon.
Brad score.
Yeah.
So just a
Simon.
small bit of well done. Yeah. So it's just a small bit of a bit of background. Basically, the album was recorded in 2 sessions. One on November the 22nd, 67, and a further one in December, on December the 11th, where they did 4 songs, and so they basically did it in 2 sessions. You know, so very much live thing, very much. I think the thing about it is this slow blues in 6/8. Brad, you picked up on something that I've been thinking about for a while. That thing about when they do a slow blues and the drummer plays on the ride cymbals, got that kind of openness that rather than on the hi-hat, which is a bit tighter and a bit more, the difference between the two depending on what you're playing and stuff. I'm not a drummer, but I feel there's like a sort of vocabulary thing for drummers where the ride cymbal is a signal about something slightly different to the sort of tighter hi-hat and snare thing. It's great.
Yeah.
But yeah, I picked up on that as well.
It's a real traditional sort of big band sort of swing thing,
isn't it? Yeah. That's right. It kind of it helps to give it more swing, doesn't it? If that's possible, kind of thing, rather than being a little bit tighter and hi hat and snare kind of integrate a bit more. It's a bit tighter, more driven, kind of straighter.
There's a lot of drummers in that time frame, Simon. Without interrupting you again,
no, carry on.
A lot of the drummers in that time frame, like John Densmore, would play on the right. Ginger Baker. A lot of the guys in that era were playing ride cymbals. Ringo used to play the ride a lot, especially in I Want You, She's So Heavy in 1970 or 69 or whatever it is. But yeah, carry on, Simon. I just want to elaborate on that.
Right. Drumming vocabulary is and what they use. It's interesting. Basically, I don't think. Listened to a few times. I don't think Jeremy Spencer's on this at all, is he? I think it's basically just a trio, just the 3 of them, which is interesting. He leads the first track, plays knowing, and he's not on the second track at all. So, I think it's quite bold, and it's quite got to be quite confident to go. Yeah, well, you're not on the second track. It's just basically a trio. Peter doing his thing. And not even playing any rhythm guitar. Nobody feels any need to have a rhythm guitar track or anything like that. You just go ahead and play it. As you said, it's I wrote down rather cheeky. White men can sing the blues. It's a fantastic vocal performance. I think from Peter. I think that's he's sort of unsung. Other strength. His ability to sing fantastically. Beautiful economy in his playing as well. Why play 5 notes when one will do, kind of thing. And as you said, and he's allowed, because there's only bass and drums in it, he's got all the space to take up with the guitar. It sounds fantastic, and clearly playing live, with the other 2 in the studio gives it that vibe and that integration of the 3 instruments and the 3 people playing, as one together. That's a lesson to us all, really, isn't it? A lesson in economy and what you can do with 3 people in a studio live. I too gave it a 10 out of 10. So, it's not for straightforward. I think it's a bit more than that in Green's lyrical composition as well. It's not just a straightforward blues song. So 10 out of 10 for me. Never a skip. Andrew.
Fantastic, guys. You guys are awesome. Thank you for your contributions and pointing out a couple of things. The next track, folks, is Long Grey Mare, and I've highlighted this book here by Martin Clemens before, and I just want to point out to you, I'll include a link to this book. It's the revised, updated book for you to go and research the history of this band. And one of the reasons why I want you to do this is because on this track, Long Grey Mare, John McVie is not playing bass. It's Bob Brunning, who has written a couple of books himself on the history of Fleetwood Mac, is playing bass on this track. So it's an interesting little bit of the history. And as I alluded to in the introduction, guys, we're planning to do with a couple of guests the history of Fleetwood Mac. And one of those guests will be Richard Orlando, who we'll talk a little bit more about, who's written 3 volumes on every Fleetwood Mac song. So I urge you to go and check out his books as well. And he's deep dived Brad and Simon. You guys have got copies of those too, I'm sure. And yeah, go and check out to the research that this guy has done. It'll leave you breathless. But one of the great things about this song, Brad and Simon, is that it's always included on any of the compilation albums of Fleetwood Mac, on their greatest hits, or or the essential Fleetwood Mac. It was a song that I heard on the radio. It's they play this with 3 or 4 other early Fleetwood Mac songs. They play this song on classic radio here in New Zealand, which is an interesting little bit of history. I like this song, Brad and Simon, because this is the first time we get to hear the rhythm section. We get to hear the drums and also the bass on this track. They feature independently really, really well for you to go and check it out. It's a wonderful highlight. That up-tempo blues feel, again, it's important to point out because it's a big part of that Chicago blues sound as well. Peter Green's vocals, epic on this, backed up by just a wonderful harp playing, isn't it? It's just on this, no Brad, no guitar solo.
No.
So just a blues band playing and singing, and you don't need a Les Paul on every track, Simon, for it to be gold, for it to be an epic track.
Could be improved by having one on every track.
Guys, I tossed and turned about my rankings on. Originally, I gave it 9, then I went to an 8. But this morning I listened to it again. I've got to give this a 10 out of 10 because only because of John McVie and Mick Fleetwood. Their contribution to this track is just incredible. So they get that extra point. Brad.
Long Grey Mare. This is another wonderful example of British electric blues and sounding very American with that fresh feel that I mentioned before, guys. That fresh sound. I love that walking line, that walking sort of bass and guitar line. It's very catchy, the riff.
It's great.
It gets you pumping, gets you wanting to sort of get up and swing and boogie. It's great. Great vocal delivery from Peter Green. The vocals are fantastic. Harmonica. Look, harmonica is it's a very personal instrument. It's, in my opinion, it's hard to make it sound like a guitar playing. I don't know if that you guys think like that or not, but I think harmonica, it's more of a vocal thing, in my opinion. It's closer to singing than it is a guitar. But when a guitarist is playing harmonica, they tend to play it more like a guitar or phrasing like a guitar. And I can really hear the harmonica's got guitar lines going on there. It's all guitar licks, guitar sort of playing. So sounds fantastic. I'll put here, it's a short song, packs a lot of punch. Short song meaning no guitar solo, which is always something that I'm always looking for, and it's missing. But I still gave it a 9 out of 10, and never a skip, guys. Simon,
cheers, buddy.
I think what's interesting about this so far, we've had the kind of classic Chicago blues. Then we've just had Peter doing a trio thing, very much a lot of space. We've got a slow, and then we've got this kind of bit more punchy, but with the harmonica, So there's kind of the textures, and clearly these back in the 60s, we didn't have massive amounts of effects and things. So you're looking at those nuances in the way you play and what you do as that gives you the difference, that gives you the dynamics between each track, and it gives you the ebb and flow of an album, and you start with that very tight focus, and you kind of branch yourself out, don't you? So you're saying to people, this is what else we do, kind of thing, as a thing. I mean, I think, Brad, I pick up on your point that let's not forget that people dance to these things. That they are, a lot of it's clearly based in the blues. Those blues guys, they played for people to dance. They didn't play for people to sit around and nod their heads sagely. They played for people to dance. So therefore, the blues has a kind of it's got to be able to sort of bowl along and have a swing so that people get up and dance.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think so. I think that's the interesting part, is that we have the introduction of the harmonica here. It's a definite contrast to what's gone before. No guitar solo, and that guitar and bass playing the riff in unison, at the same time, just pretty much all the way through. So it was really cool. I gave it 8.5 out of 10, but it's not a skip. It's as I say, it's another interesting side to to Fleetwood Mac, and we get the multifaceted look at what they can do stuff, which I kind of feel is very much in the style of the Blues Breakers albums, that we've ranked. They had that kind of, they weren't all that straightforward blues. They clapped on what we did, not all straightforward, go off into different areas, a bit of country blues and a bit of other stuff. And so I think that's what they were going for those days. It was showing off your your diversity and the different areas that you inhabited, and with the different songs. So hats off to them for that. Andrew.
Yeah, thanks, Alan. You and I are the only ones that gave this a 10 out of 10. So clearly you and I only are the only ones that know what we're talking about, as usual. So thank you for that. We have to point that out. Thank you.
8.5 is not a bad score. It's not a bad score at all. It's like, bloody, it's love to have 8.5.
Next track, folks, is Hellhound, On My Trail, and a famous song made famous by Robert Johnson, Brad and Simon, covered by a lot of people, including our one of the pillars on our channel, Eric Clapton, has done a version of this. The list is endless of blues and rock and rollers who have done a version of this. Jeremy's on vocals on this track and also playing the piano. And he does a nice job of that. And I think we also got that too, didn't we, on Shrine, where he's doing the Jerry Lee Lewis, Great Balls of Fire, as well. So clearly Brad, an accomplished keyboard player. And, he does a really, really good job of playing the keyboards on this. And he knows the words. If you listen to the track, he makes a comment. So I've forgotten the words, or I know the words, or something like that. So I love the little banter that you can get, and it's on the official recording too. So go and check it out, especially when they're actually singing some of these songs, the way they go, "Oh yeah," some of those phrasings, Brad and Simon. You can tell that that's in the studio, that they're playing that as a band. But on this track, it's not my favorite track on the album. I think as a focal point for the unique musical contribution that Jeremy brings to the band, I can see why they've included this, and certainly wouldn't be astray for any 16, 17 or 18-year-old blues nut listening to this in 1968, Brad and Simon. They'll be fully aware of Chicago blues with the piano, with the keyboards, there's lots of guys and girls doing that right through the Chicago blues history. So it's not a complete contrast. It's part of the furniture. But I've given this 8 out of 10. I'm going to classify this, Brad, as a good album filler.
Yeah.
Never a skip though.
Yeah. Hellhound on My Trail, I put here, it's like a wonderful take, like a piano blues take Great lead vocal. I think Jeremy's voice sounds great on it. Very stripped back approach taken vocally and piano wise. For me, I've got a cinematic view of this being recorded in my head. I can just picture Jeremy sitting in a room playing the piano, recording, and whether they did a few takes of this, I'm not sure. But again, it's a short song. Certainly packs a lot of goodness in it, though. I gave it 7.5 out of 10, guys. Never a skip, though.
Yep.
Simon.
Yeah, it's it's funny, isn't it? The thing they reminded me of straight away just was clearly that kind of sitting down in the studio and just playing, again, contrast with the previous track, which has got harp and stuff. This is just Jeremy Spencer on his own, just playing the piano. And it struck me. The thing that it reminded me of was I've seen clips of Bob Dylan just playing the piano like that, just sitting down, just playing the piano, just do it, and that's kind of what it reminded me of. And I don't know whether that's an influence at all, but I kind of feel that's where it comes from, and Andrew's right, it is definitely a filler track, this, and but I know it's like when you're in a band, you've got to have some levity, haven't you? Some some change to it, and they probably thought, do Hellhound or Trial, that's a bit of fun, it's kind of just with the piano, so he just knocks it out, and 2 minutes worth, and that's what you get, a very stripped down arrangement and things. And I'm clearly quite a serious subject. Hellhound on my trail is not to be taken lightly, but yeah, I agree with you. It's a 7.5, 8 out of 10, isn't it? Track filler. It's fun, and a bit of a thing, but not a skip. I wouldn't skip it. I think that it provides a contrast. It provides a bit of a palate cleanser before what comes next, and what's been before.
Cool.
And
hey, Arvin.
Jeremy Spencer. Morning, Arvin. How you doing?
Good to see you, bro. Thank you for hanging out with us. Thank you, guys. Thank you for your contribution, Brad and Simon. Always appreciate it, what you guys have to say. We're up to Shake Your Money Maker. We love that title, don't we, Brad and Simon?
Right. Yes.
I
think of the Black Crows for some reason.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. So, yeah. It's the title of their first album.
I was being sarcastic.
Yeah. And I love that. I love that interweaving, that tapestry, because the Black Crows, again, heavily influenced by this British electric blues scene.
100%.
Heavily involved. They talk about it often. So, and I got to remind folks, if you're watching, we've ranked at least 2 or 3, certainly 2 Black Crows albums. So go and check that out on the channel, folks, if you're a Black Crows fan, because we are. One day, remember we're going to do that Page and Black Crows live out.
Oh yes, we still will. Yeah. We still will. We've got. Mate, there's too many albums we've still got to get to. We just keep
We'll run out of albums by June. Not saying which year though.
Yeah. Is that on the list, Rock Professor?
It's on the list.
It's all on the list. Yes,
it's on the list.
Absolutely, it's on the list. Yeah.
Awesome. Shake Your Money Maker. Folks, we've already said this and we're going to continue saying it. Jeremy plays a famous slide guitar lick. It's a famous lick. If you're a slide guitar fan, if you're a slide guitar fanatic, you've got to be able to play. And if you're a blues nut, you've got to be able to play that lick. It's mandatory. It's up there with we'll just keep on track.
You're going to demonstrate this mandatory lick.
It's mandatory, and there's about 4 or 5 different versions of Fleetwood Mac over the 3 or 4 years, singing songs with this lick. And Brad, there's probably dozens and dozens and dozens of blues songs where people have used their own lyrics. Simon, you know, and they've used this famous lick by Elmore James. So it's really, really important lick for blues guys, and these guys knew that and they nailed it in the style of Elmore James. Again, Jeremy's master. I don't think you can underestimate Jeremy's contribution to the British electric blues scene, guys. You know, I think seriously he's got to be in the category of these other giants that we talk about. You know, he's certainly, at least for me, listening to this album and putting him aside, Brad and Simon, I'm thinking, wow, you know, this guy. Yeah, let's talk about this. I'll be interested to hear what you guys have to say. Maybe that can be a show in itself. I'll leave you guys some room to talk about this. I just think it's fantastic. Again, it's a song that's on a lot of compilations, again, for good reason. I've given this, because it's just the epitome, I think, of Chicago blues by these guys. It's 10 out of 10. Not quite a Brad score, Brad, but 10 out of 10.
Look, it's Shake Your Money Maker. I love the song. I think it's a great version of the song. I love that shuffle feel they put onto this one. It's got that classic steam train sort of coming along tracks sort of vibe. I love that. That's what I picture in my head when I hear this song, like a steam train just chugging along on tracks, and the steam's coming out the chimney, and there's like people partying out the sides of the train and out hanging out.
You got it.
Yeah, I picture this in my head. That's what it's like a train that's almost coming off the tracks of no good happening in the back, you know, in the carts. That's what it sounds like to me. You know, this is bloody exciting. It gets your blood pumping, this track. I love that sort of that shuffle feel. It's fantastic. Now, there's some fantastic playing by the band here, but some equally fantastic slide playing here by Jeremy Spencer. The guitar solo is fantastic. You know, I love the vocal delivery. I'll put here the drums and the bass. They're just holding this thing together like glue. Those guys have just got this down pat. It's a phenomenal song, and I have to give it 10 out of 10, guys, and never a skip. Not quite a Brad score, but yeah, very close, very close. 10 out of 10, guys. Simon.
Yes, taking a track 5 for them to reconvene as a band and get everybody on again.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I do think that, you know, it's one of the interesting things about this album is how much of it is not the whole band. You know, how much of it is, you know, the rhythm section and either Peter or Jeremy, whatever, you know, and you know, not all of the tracks are all of the band, which is quite. I mean, I think I should say that you follow, you know, the sort of you know, the sort of Hellhound on My Trail kind of, you know, serious subject, spooky with the Shake Your Money Maker, which is much more of a kind of party upbeat dance, you know, kind of track. Because I think that's paying attention to your material, and as you say, we're back into the sort of Chicago blues territory, aren't we? With the 2 guitars, one slide, one not, and I think that's interesting as well, isn't it? You know, that they're not 2 guitars doing the same thing; they do specific and different things. You know, Jeremy Spencer playing the slide, that's his thing, the slide thing, and he doesn't do I don't think he does much of the straightforward, you know, you know, standard tuning stuff. Whereas, you know, Peter does all of that, and you know, there's a clear demarcation between the 2 roles in the band, and you know, you can hear it here, can't they? You know, Peter Green plays a riff, and then he's joined by Jeremy Spencer doing the slide and things. But the, you know, demarcation is clear, the separation between the 2, and it's got a, you know, slide solo in it as well, which is pretty cool. Not a Peter Green solo. Yeah, great track 5, 10 out of 10. Never a skip from me. Great track. Andrew.
Awesome, thank you. Hey, Gretch Zeppelin, good to see you, brother. Thanks for jumping on board. Always a pleasure to see you. Thanks for hanging out with us. What's the next track?
Looking
for somebody. Looking for somebody. Here we go, folks. So again, This is a Peter Green number. And I made a point earlier that I didn't realise that one of the tracks that we just spoke about was a Jeremy Spencer number. I didn't realise for a long time that this was a Peter Green number until I got the album, I think. So kind of blew me away because, to hear about a guy singing about blues is going to be his only way, kind of cemented in Peter's mind where he wanted to be, as a guitar player and as a band leader, and he's doing it here on this album with this band. He's unashamedly a blues musician, and I love that. I think it's a great track. I'm surprised a lot of people haven't covered this track. Maybe you and I talking about it here together, folks, might just get that going, Brad and Simon. You just don't know. But I think it's a great song. It's a manifesto, as the rock professor likes to point out. Sometimes we have albums, or sometimes we have songs that can, that are indicative of a band or an artist or an individual. And certainly this song is one of those great songs that Peter Green has written. That's a reflection, I think, of who he is. And he's not hiding it here on the first album. Again, no guitar solo, but it's beefed up, isn't it, by Mick Fleetwood on the drums. What incredible skin work he's got on this, You just have to sort of remember and keep that in your mind, folks, that Mick Fleetwood, again, doesn't probably get the recognition, as a British electric blues drummer. He certainly got it a little bit later on as a rock drummer, didn't he, Brad?
Yeah.
But and well deserved. But the guy could just hold that steady beat for a long, long time.
Oh yeah.
And did it live. But certainly is an incredible contributor to this song. Guys, I've given this 9 out of 10. I think it's fantastic. Brad?
Yeah. Looking for somebody. I'll put here the drums sound fantastic. Harmonica covering, coming over the top of, and it's got that real kind of open sort of feel going on there. It sounds phenomenal. Great vocal from Peter Green I've put here. Playing that harmonica the way he's phrasing it, like a guitar player again, like I said, that sounds fantastic. I can't really say much more than what Andrew's already said, but I gave it 9 out of 10. Never a skip, guys. Simon.
Cheers, mate.
Yeah. So again, another sort of interesting track in that, to me, it reminds me very much of "Stand By Me." That's like, doom, doom, doom.
Okay.
But they start off doing that as at the beginning, and the drums as well. Very, they don't quite go the same place with it, but because they keep to the sort of blues idiom rather than that A minor to F sharp kind of thing that "Stand By Me" does. But reminded me very much of that, and very much that soul and R&B and blues things kind of, more intertwined, so than they are now as musical genres. Bass drums and pretty much, harp solo. I don't know, not really much guitar on it, if at all, really. Bob, how you doing? Good morning. It's a late at night. It's very nice of you to stay up, Bob.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think there's any guitar on it, which I think is interesting. I didn't make any notes of it, so just bass drums and harp, which is again different take, different texture, different dynamic to the whole thing, and some yearning and searching soulful vocals from Peter. It's again showcasing different things, trying to do different things, not just doing we're going to do 12 bar blues songs kind of thing. It's fine, but they're not doing that. They are experimenting with the genre, trying to put different aspects, different to all of the songs, and I think, and then putting together and contrasting them with the previous one and all sorts of things. I think it's really interesting. Really, it's you don't know what's coming next. That diversity is fantastic. So I gave it 8.5 out of 10, but never a skip. Really interesting.
Awesome. Thank you, Simon. Good to see Bob, folks, in the chat. If you guys aren't aware of who Bob is, he is one of the authors of this book that we spoke about in our intro here, that we urge you, if you're a Fleetwood Mac fan, to go and purchase. We'll include links for you to go and do that. Please go and check it out. We're at the halfway stage, folks, where we're flicking the LP. So I've got a couple of picks here that I'd like to go through with you guys. The first pick I'd like to show, Brad and Simon, is the one from the Shrine. So forgive me, I'll just get rid of Gretch's comment there. It's not because we want to get rid of you, Gretch. We just want to get rid of that comment. Hold on. Get rid of that comment. Right.
Very
so
exciting comment.
You can see Jeremy, Danny, and then obviously you've got Mick in the centre drumming, and then you've got John McVie and Peter next to him. So this isn't from this era, but this is the pick from a couple of shows ago. Now see those 4x15 cabinets, Brad and Simon. Look at them. Orange cabs. Wow.
4x15s, are they? Wow.
4x15s.
Jeez. Unreal.
Yeah.
Wouldn't fancy carrying those.
No. Not at
So
all.
that's
Yeah,
one of the
amazing
reasons.
sound, yeah.
One of the reasons why Shrine sounded so much different from the blues, from the the Chicago chess scene, where they're using Fender amps.
Yeah, and what are they
So-
using here, Andrew? What's Peter Green playing through? Are they using what?
There is-
Marshalls or
He's using
Blues Breaker?
the JTM 45, so he's using Marshalls on this album. So give me a second, folks. All right. So there's the cover there with our contribution, the dustbin cover, the dog cover, the rubbish bin cover, whatever you want to call it, Brad. That's a pic there of the band from '68. So there's the long of it and the short of it, Brad.
Yeah, that I was just reflecting on the cover. The cover is a very kind of anti-art cover, isn't it? It's kind of somehow that kind of the alley with the dustbin and the sort of cat and things. It's just it's kind of anti-art thing, really, isn't it? As I think. Oh, just go back to the previous picture a minute, Andrew. There's something. What's Mr. Fleetwood got in his legs?
So
I'm just asking a question. You understand?
yeah, the famous balls from the toilet cistern, which he went on and made famous on other Fleetwood Mac album covers, but it became a bit of his thing.
Can I just say they look like you wouldn't want to meet them in a dark laneway late at night after a big night on the Terps. Yeah, they look like they'd rough you up good and proper.
Yeah. Well, notice how the antithesis of Cream. They're there with their leather jackets and their tennis shoes. They're not looking like dappers like Cream did around the same time. So interesting point. Another pic there of them. Again, John with his leather jacket on.
None of them look as though they've been mods in the past, do they?
No, they're definitely bluesmen.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of live pics of them playing from this era, folks. A majority of the live pics, if you Google and go and look in publications, are when Danny's in the band. But managed to get a couple there. So you can see Jeremy there with his Gibson. And McVie there with his Precision. Again, looking pretty cool. 2 more picks to go. Here's an album cover from the Carousel Ballroom. Again, that tight band unit, guys.
Yeah.
Always. Yes, interestingly, the guitar's out on the wings and the bass player standing in front of the drummer. I mean, bass player should stand in front with the drummer, but yes, it's interesting, isn't it? That they're that they've spread themselves out, so the guitars are either side.
Right.
So you get one
Yeah.
guitar and one side on it, and then, but normally the singer. So normally you'd think of it and you'd go, well, Peter, the main vocalist would be in the middle, and then you'd have the bass stick or whatever. But it doesn't work like that in Fleetwood Mac, does it? Not that version of it. They're out on the wings.
Yeah, Gretsch Zeppelin is right. They didn't have a lot of monitors back in those days, so it was really, really important that the bass and the drummer were in time. So one of the reasons, and we've discussed this a few times, one of the reasons why Derek and the Dominoes, when they were playing live, so the bass player could see what the foot was doing, Brad, to make sure that they were, on time. So, yeah. Really, really important, especially if you're going to go for a long jam, and they certainly did back then. They loved going for a long jam. That's all the picks. Can I kick off side 2?
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Great picks. Great picks.
Thank you, bro.
Track 1,
Thank you.
side 2.
No place to go. So we get a cover here, folks. Howling Wolf cover. Peter's on vocals. I urge you to go and check this out, please. What's really, really interesting about this song, if you're a beginner guitar player or a blues man or girl or boy or woman, the interesting thing about this song is that it's just in 2 chords. It's an E and an A, and the guitar riff and the harp repeating that riff, it's just phenomenal. It's hypnotic. Brad mentioned earlier about being on a train, about, imagining, being on a train. This song certainly is one of those songs for me, because it gives you that kind of, that kind of consistent 2 beats, Brad. Easy to learn. I urge you to go and check it out. And what's really interesting and important about this song, Simon, and you mentioned it earlier, when they used to play this live, they used to rev this up. They used to rave it up when they used to play it live. It would be twice as fast, and all the kids will be jumping up and down and going nuts on this track. And because of that, and because it's a Howling Wolf song, it's 10 out of 10. I'm just going to go and do something, guys.
Yeah, no worries. We'll carry on. Keep talking, Brad.
Yeah, all right. So we're up to No Place to Go, isn't it? That's the one that Andrew was just talking about.
Yeah.
I was just double checking my notes, because I mark off as we go along where I'm up to, and I haven't done that yet. So No Place to Go. It's a great feel on this song. The harmonica and the guitar unison together. Great vocal by Peter Green. There's lots of soul in his voice in this version of this song. I love how straight and tidy the band sound on this song. That's quite a unique thing to do in a band, like to have a band that can do jam sessions and go off and improvise, but also play straight and tidy. That's a skill set within itself. That I find that bands from this era were so good at doing, Simon. They would play straight, and then all of a sudden they deviate, do their jam session, come back, and they'd be straight again. And that's a good rhythm section right there. Great rhythm section. Great harmonica solo. Love the guitar tone as well. Look, again, I've said it before, it's amazing. These guys are British electric blues, but they really do sound like they're an American blues-based band. I gave them 8.5 out of 10, Simon, and never skip. Off to you.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, this is then back to the same as the first. This is back to classic Chicago blues. Good morning, KXM Rock. Nice to see you. I hope you're good. So to me, this is back to that, side 1 and side 2 open with, sort of, and this is clearly, it's a Chester Burnett, Howling Wolf, clearly very much in that Chicago blues thing, as you say, upbeat, driving, definitely a driving rhythm, expressive vocals. And but again, got that swing in it. Got that swing in it that basically, I don't know, it's just got that 4-note riff all the way through, isn't it? That's basically what they do all the way through, and you're relying on that, as Andrew said, that kind of hypnotic driving rhythm to power it through. It does, and you've got the harp solo as well, rather than particularly guitar solo. Although guitar does some quite cool things underneath the harp solo if you listen carefully. But I noticed. Again, it's a 10 out of 10. Never a skip. I think it's a great opening to side 2, and exactly, revving it up for side 2. So yeah, 10 out of 10 for me, but never a skip. Andrew.
Awesome. Sorry, Brad, I missed your ranking track for this track, bro.
I gave it 8.5.
8.5 out of 10. Thank you, bro. Awesome.
Surely 8.5.
I should have given it 9. But
okay.
But like, I mean, the thing is, because we rank, some of them I've ranked at 9, some are ranked at 10. Like this one's just under the 9. Just where I pictured 9. Other ones. That's all.
Keep digging. Keep digging.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Keep digging. What album is it? KMX Rock. It's the first album that Fleetwood Mac recorded. Fleetwood Mac, the first album. If you just want to check that out. The next track, guys, is My Baby's Good to Me, and this is where Jeremy, for me, guys, when I first heard it, became a personal hero of mine. Brad and Simon, his vocals and his guitar slide on this again cannot be underestimated. His contribution, not only to this band but to this legacy, is huge. We saw it, didn't we, when he got together with some of the guys to celebrate Peter Green a couple of years ago with that benefit concert that they did with Kurt Hammett, and he came along there, one of the stars of that gig, in my opinion. I'll leave some room here for you guys, but I think, again, this is an interesting example where guys from the UK took very seriously, Brad, what they were trying to do, this. And if you go and watch some of the interesting little snips of Jeremy speaking about this, they're old videos, about 12 years, 13 years, and he's given you examples of how he plays and how he gets his tone, just short little videos. But he talks about how he took this really seriously. This was a job to these guys. They lived and breathed Chicago blues. He lived and breathed Elmore James, and they kind of took this album seriously. I think we've got to remember that, and a few of the authors that we've mentioned earlier mentioned that. Bob Brunning in this book here, Blues, the British Connection, talks about that seriously, where he's got chapters on different British electric blues bands, through the 60s. And I think it was that seriousness, even though it's music, and sometimes you can take it lightly, Brad and Simon, but it was that seriousness that came through the music, and people loved that too, that missionary perspective. And you get that on this track too. Sorry to be a preacher, but I'm a preacher of the blues.
Testify.
Do I get an amen?
Amen.
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 Amen. Guys, I just think this track's fantastic.
Amen. Yes, there you are. Let's call the whole thing off.
9 out of 10 for me, Brad. Never a skip. Masterclass and slide guitar.
Yeah, I agree totally. Lovely chugging sort of blues thing they got going on. I love the slide intro. I put wonderful vocal by Jeremy. The band's really cooking on this one. You can't help but tap your foot along to this one if you're sitting back listening and you just want to tap your foot. It's lovely slide guitar solo. Jeremy doesn't get enough credit. I think like I said to you, he's like an old soul in a young fella's body at this point in his career. Lovely slide solo, straight up blues, and this is how it's done, guys. I put 8.5 out of 10, never a skip. Simon.
Yes, again, it's a kind of, because it was a three-piece thing, isn't it? Spencer, Fleetwood, and McVie playing, three of them. Any sign of Peter on it at all, which is quite interesting. That on the songs that they're quite happy to do it as a three-piece, as you say, has that very kind of Elmore James opening on the slide, doesn't it? And it's basically a slide guitar song, like a brisk swinging shuffle, and a very good slide solo in it as a thing. It's I gave it 8.5 out of 10, but never a skip. And interesting that contrast to what we've just had and things. Yeah, Andrew.
So KMX Rock is asking about
Hammond's Fleetwood Mac.
yeah, they did a couple of years ago. They did a tribute, and he was one of the guys. He brought Greenie, took Greenie along, and I think they did Green Manalishi. Billy Gibbons was there. Steven Tyler, Christine McVie was there as well. Noel Gallagher. There's a Johnny, the guy that plays the Telecaster, Johnny Lang was there. It was pretty good. Go and check it out. We've done a couple of shows on that gig here on the channel. If you guys want to go and check it out, we've picked our 5 top songs from that gig, didn't we?
Yeah, that's good.
I like the fact you're asking the guy who plays the Telecaster. That narrows it down, doesn't it?
It's a mental note to me. So when I said guy that plays the Telecaster, then it was Johnny Lang, because I've got them stored in my mind. The Stratocaster guys are over here. Guys. The Telecaster guys are over here, and in the middle is the Les Paul guys, Brad.
In your mind mansion that you've got, have you? Oh, yes. I go into this room here, and there they all are. And then I can remember them all.
Yeah, KMX Rock, go and check it out. Yeah, you'll be blown away. Another side to Kirk that a lot of people were wow. Yeah, I Loved Another Woman is the next track, guys.
Yeah, wow.
Again, yeah, have you?
No, I said it's not a confession.
Oh. I thought you said I've got a confession. I said, this is not the show to do any of that shit on.
No, I haven't.
Thank you.
All right. A quiet life, but that's the way I want to keep it. Thanks.
What's really interesting about this track, again, let's be clear, this is an important track for this album, but also it's an important song for this band because it has its own orbit, its own solar system, its own ecosystem, this track, doesn't it, Brad? A lot of people have gone and covered this, including our good friend Gary Moore has covered this. So, hugely influential. What I like about this track, this is definitely, Brad, where you get the reverb, don't you? You know that this is recorded a little bit differently. There's reverb on this track, and Peter sings it delicately. Peter is also the author, the writer of this song. And the delicate phrasing that he offers as a guitar player on this track, again, is a defining point in his history as a guitar player moving forward. If you want to know where it begins, it begins on this album. There's hints of it when he's playing with Mail, but this delicate phrasing begins here on this album, in my opinion anyway, to my ears. The bass from John McVie, again, is one of those instruments that rides this track along. McVie's hugely influential, obviously, to the success of this band when they play live. Go and check out the live tracks that they were doing around this time. It's fantastic. I'm going to leave you guys some room. I just think, this is one of the standout tracks for me on the album, with its worth its price just to hear this track, I think, Brad. I'm giving this a Brad score.
Yeah. Guys, I loved Another Woman. Absolutely adore this song. I think Peter Green's guitar playing is outstanding. There's a real spooky, sort of haunting feel going on. I love the drenched reverb tone of Green's playing. We're definitely hearing Greenie, the Les Paul here. What a great vocal delivery from Peter Green as well, and beautiful guitar solo. You know, to move people with an instrument is a God-given gift. It's not necessarily something that everybody has. And I think Peter Green managed to do that so well on this song. I love this version of the song. You don't really want it to fade out when it's fading out. It's a great song. I gave it 100 out of 10, and I think it's the song of the album without a doubt. For me, anyway. Simon.
No, excellent. Well done. Well, completely. Yes, I completely. It's a song in D minor, I think. So it reminded me very much of Black Magic Woman.
Yeah, it's got that
got
feel.
that similar, almost that kind of Latin feel to it. That
and it might have been part of the influence there to write that song.
Yeah, well, yes. Or it could be write another one like that. You know,
we need another Black Magic Woman.
We need yes, of course. That's probably what the title is. I loved another Black Magic Woman. Nobody knows, but oh yes, but that's my vibe. Is that I felt very much had that kind of Black Magic Woman vibe to it. Another three-piece song, just basically Peter and John and Mick, just the three of them playing together. As you say, it gives you the chance, doesn't it, to have a, you can get that really big kind of spacey guitar sound. You've got a chance to really drop into it, and Peter has clearly, great feel, fantastic dynamics, flurries of notes followed by long held ones and things. And he just, he's got the feel about what to do and how to do it.
Yeah.
In a beautiful way. And as you say, as John was saying, a reverb, but it gives you, the enables the guitar to really bloom in the mix because it's got so much space to do it. But clearly, it's not a huge amount of effects, not a huge amount of stuff. So to me, again, I completely agree with you. Great use of space, great use of feel, great use of dynamics. It's a fantastic track. 100 out of 10.
Yeah,
it's definitely it's one of the standout tracks on the album for sure.
Yeah,
you're 100%. Right, Andrew. You okay?
Yeah.
Rushing about.
Yeah, no. I'm listening to you guys. Just because I missed Brad's score before doesn't mean that I'm not listening.
Really?
Yeah. No, look, I agree with you. It's definitely one of the standout tracks, isn't it? It's just an epic, and all versions. I urge you to go and check out all versions. There's some wonderful live versions of this track that's on Spotify. Definitely worth going to check out.
100%.
Hold
on, guys. I'm just flicking.
We tell him we thought it was 5 out of 10, Brad, and not to listen.
Fantastic track showing off Peter. Yeah, absolutely, Bob. Cold Black Night. Again, just imagine being a 17-year-old having a collection of cassette tapes, Brad, and this is one of the tracks that you listen to that and I'm going, wow, and finding out that the guy, Jeremy Spencer, wrote this track. Again, just phenomenal. Again, we've got that same formula, and I'm not saying it disrespectfully, but it's this blueprint, that Elmore James blueprint, which is on this track that he's playing with his slide guitar. I'm gonna say his ability to play slide on this album, again, is it's a repeated point, and I'm sorry, I'm just trying to find another word to describe, how incredible, how important it is, Simon. I can't quite find another word to describe it, but I just think it's a masterclass in that electric blues style.
Yeah.
That I think he influenced a lot of people, and I think certainly Mick Taylor and Keith Richards were listening to this album. I'm sure of it, because when you go and listen to about 4 or 5 other albums after this, they're playing slide on every single album.
Oh yeah.
The Rolling. Now, I'm not saying that Jeremy is responsible for that, but I'm saying, boy, he could be.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, I think they're all listening to the same things, aren't they? They're all they're listening to the same sources, and then taking those sources and making what they want out of them. It's probably actually listening to the same sources as much as it is the listening, the taking things off each other. They're just coming at it, the same time, from different angles.
Yeah.
Again, serious lyrical content, which is always good. The blues do talk about that quite a bit, Brad and Simon. Guys, as much as I love the song, I'm keeping my rankings, determined with a goal in mind, Brad and Simon. I'm giving this 8.5 out of 10, but it's never a skip, Brad. Never a skip.
Yeah. Look, for me, I had to rank this in accordance with everything else I've ranked. I can't get everything a 9 or a 10 either. It's otherwise I'm not being fair. So basically, it's a great song. It's definitely never a skip. Vocal from Jeremy is fantastic. Really, that slide and vocal intro that set the vibe for the whole song. The band, when it comes in, it's so locked in and tight. It's another, I feel like I'm repeating myself a bit. It's another great example of British electric blues, of the band sounding like they're straight out of America. It's got that own, their own fresh approach to the blues, which is apparent on this again, which we love a lot. And, without sort of, sort of continuing and repeating myself and going on what Andrew's already said, I gave it 7.5 out of 10 and never a skip. Definitely never a skip, guys. I just have to rank it that way because I've ranked too many of them 8, 9, and 10, and I can't get ranked the same. So, but it's a wonderful track. Never a skip. Simon.
Yeah, I mean it's only this other second track now. It's in 6/8 time. So it's kind of got that waltz feel to it. That I think it's also, I haven't seen one where they actually got 2 guitars. There's actually Peter's playing underneath Jeremy, and that's a bit of a difference. It it's been happening a lot on this album. So, and certainly not on the slow ones. On the slow ones they tend to be just play as a 3-piece, but Peter is playing on this. But it's basically a slide guitar track. Yes, I gave 8 out of 10 as well, but not a skip. No, it's contrasting with the previous track. It's clearly they play very differently, Spencer and Green. So yeah, cool. 8 out of 10 for me.
Awesome.
Never a skip.
They complement. They definitely complement each other, though. I will say that.
No, for sure.
Well,
yeah.
100%. Well, you just talked about compliment. Let's talk about the next track, which is a bit of contrast. World keeps on turning. Again, we've got Peter doing this number by himself, clearly, playing the acoustic guitar, Brad. Interestingly, he's not playing the acoustic guitar in the Chicago acoustic style. I read a review recently where it's more akin, Brad and Simon, to the British folk acoustic style that was developing at that same time that Jimmy Page
John Renbourn, Bert Jansch,
Yes.
David
Yes.
Graham, all of that, absolutely.
Yeah. You know, so he's coming from, you know, that perspective, which is really, really interesting, because, you know, this is where Brad, you know, maybe we could say there is a strong British element to this album.
Yes.
True.
Yeah. And I like that, you know, the fact that it's an acoustic, you know, will appeal to a lot of people for that contrast that we often talk about that albums have. Lovely vocals by Peter, but I do like the fact, though, you know, that there is a British acoustic kind of folk style to his acoustic playing on this. I've given this 8.5 out of 10. Again, I urge people to go and check out a lot of other versions of this. He's playing this live too. Go and check it out. Brad.
Yeah, look. The world keep on turning. Great acoustic vibes I've written here. Great vocal from Peter Green. Sounds like, you know, Peter Green sitting in a room with an acoustic guitar and recording, and that, gives that real honest and purity to the performance, which makes it fantastic in my opinion. There's some wonderful acoustic blues playing on here. If you listen to what he's actually playing, I think it's fantastic. And I really do think it highlights Peter Green's voice. I mean, let's be honest, sitting there with an acoustic guitar and singing is pretty naked. You're pretty raw. It's skin and bones. You're exposed. I'll put it that way. And he's done a wonderful version, a wonderful take on this song. 8 out of 10. Never skip, guys. Simon.
No, I think the interesting thing is that we've had the opening track, but then it's gone Spencer Green compositions. Like, they've alternated the compositions, and down to my feeling about this is that it's Peter's version of Hellhound on My Trail. You know, we had Jeremy just on his own, just doing something, and now we've got Peter doing, you know, very much acoustic piano, acoustic guitar. So it kind of mirrors what we have on side one as a kind of vibe thing. It's and I can see why you put this here. You know, you want to have another contrast. You know, you've got another different type of song, different type of vibe, different kind of feel. And as Andrew says, it has got that kind of folk edge to it. You know, it's got a bit around this, clearly the sort of Delta blues thing, you know, but around that as well, which is interesting. And you know, that sort of the tapping of the finger, you know, to use the rhythm thing and all of that is very cool. And I didn't realise Peter could do it. To be honest, it's quite, you know, it's sort of a really good and really interesting, different thing for Peter's playing. So it's a different side to his playing. I too gave it an 8 out of 10, but never a skip. Really, nice contrast with the previous stuff, and and to what's to come. So absolutely.
Yeah, awesome.
Andrew.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for your contributions, and thank you for everybody in the chat offering their comments and scores, and in particular Bob for joining us towards side 2 of the album. It's always a pleasure. I'll make some links here if you're watching on replay to his book and Jeff's book and a couple of other books that we've mentioned. Again, to our friend Richard Orlando's 3-volume books, and Martin Clemens or Selmans, however you pronounce it. And we do look forward to Bob joining us at some stage. We're planning the history of Fleetwood Mac, and Bob is definitely going to be a contributor to that show. Last track on the album, Brad.
Yeah, wow.
Got to Move. So Jeremy gets the privilege on Peter Green's Fleetwood Mac, Brad and Simon to end the album. So again, I think this is a point that we got to bear in mind. We've mentioned it, the three of us, many times, that this is a collaboration between these guys, these young men, and it's definitely the band that Peter wanted to have. It's definitely bloody hell. He named his band after his rhythm section. Brad, how many times does a guitar player? You're a guitar player. And you name your band after your bloody drummer and your bass player.
What's the name of your band, Brad? Oh yes, the Brad Cook
Oh,
Trio.
the Brad Cook Trio.
Yeah. Which one's the drummer, Brad or Cook?
But that doesn't happen often, does it? Doesn't happen often.
Absolutely.
Us guitar players, we like to keep the limelight to ourselves, don't we?
100%. It has to be all about
us. But again, Jeremy, he gets that privilege to close this album because he's an essential component part to this album, to the success of this album. As we mentioned in the intro, folks, this album went on to be number 4 in the UK. It certainly put Fleetwood Mac in the minds not only of young folks and people, caught up in this blues phenomena. Other artists, established artists, Brad and Simon, were listening to this no lesser than the Beatles. They were paying attention to these guys because they were saying something about this musical form of music from the States and adding their own little tinge to it. And Jeremy does this, again, with his contribution on this song. You've got Peter providing, again, wonderful backup on this with, his classic style. And then you've got Jeremy's vocals. So definitely the band's playing on this as a collaborative effort, Simon. Definitely 2 guitars. And it's gone down, in my opinion, as one of the great songs of this band because of that. But I love the way too that when they're singing, they've got and oh baby, So he's singing the vocal, the verse, and then he's back here, and you can hear him go, oh yeah, just I love that. You just get caught up in the power and the urgency and the energy of it, and the seriousness of this band. I can't give this a 10 out of 10, this track. It's just a wonderful way to close the album. I've given it 9 out of 10, Brad. It's never a skip. But the album is a masterpiece.
Yeah. Morning,
Brooks Reed. Good to see you, bro.
Yeah, look, got to move. Great way to end the album. I love the classic fade in while the jam's in progress.
Yeah.
The fade in at the start. So that only signals to me that the band were already cooking at that point and the recording button wasn't on. Yeah. I may be wrong. And they've gone, holy shit, we better bloody record this.
Yep.
Fade them in, so it doesn't sound like they just cut straight in. It sounds very jammy to me, like they know what they're doing, but there's a slight tendency to be jamming, and I reckon maybe this came in out of a jam, and they were tight, and they were shit, we better record this, so they did. Jeremy's vocal sounds somewhat cheeky in certain spots here, like they're having a bit of fun, is what I'm saying. There's an element of fun there, and you mentioned about the energy of the song, Andrew. I captured that as well. You can hear Peter in the background as well, playing guitar and contributing. The band is really cooking. There's some wonderful slide guitar underneath, some catchy rhythm guitar playing under there. It's honestly a really fun and great way to end the album. I gave it a 9 out of 10 and never a skip, guys. Simon, definitely never a skip.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was just reflecting then that you were saying, Andrew, it's album it's number 4 in the charts. I wonder how many people bought it on the back of Albatross, only to be slightly surprised by the fact that A, Albatross isn't on it, and B, it's not. There's nothing on it that really is like Albatross, is there?
I don't think the buying
Maybe
public would have been surprised by singles not being on albums back then.
Oh no! But if you've got that lead in, if you've got an image of a band in your head, and that's in those days, that's exactly what you would have done. You wouldn't have seen them.
Oh,
But,
yeah.
but you wouldn't necessarily have picked this up as oh yes, this fits in beautifully. It's got that weird sort of juxtaposition between Fleetwood Mac singles and Fleetwood Mac albums, I think. But the other thing is, the first thing I'd like to say about this is, who does a blues in C sharp? I mean, off with their heads, That's like, who's doing that? Because it is in C sharp. Anyway.
Well, there's only so many things you can do with the slide guitar, and no one wants to be doing it in E all the time, Simon.
Tuned up to C sharp?
Could they be using a capo, or is there a possibility they just tune the guitar that way?
I reckon he would have been using a capo.
It just made me laugh. It's like, C sharp? Who does a song in C sharp?
Yeah,
but it's as you said, it's a kind of full band, in a sort of classic, end of album, big bang, great slide solo, and with Jeremy Spencer singing as well, which is again interesting that they alternate the singing, pretty much. I think they've alternated it on side 2 between the two of them, which is quite interesting. But they haven't they? Yeah. It's a great way to, and it's pretty faithful to the original, the Homesick James original. So I had to listen to that. It's pretty faithful to that. So clearly they're showing their Chicago blues kind of roots thing, and saying this is what we're into and stuff, and doing it pretty faithfully. 9 out of 10 from me. Never a skip. Great ender to the album. Yeah, really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they took it seriously, because I think too we've got to remember, folks, that the buying public, the blues people out there, we're pretty sophisticated in the UK, Brad and Simon. They've been listening to a lot of this Chicago blues. When did the Rolling Stones first record their album? Ladies and gentlemen, the Rolling 64?
64, yeah, I think.
Was it 64? So, and this album was recorded early in 68, so at least 4 years. So, they knew what they were going to be listening to. So, I think that's one of the reasons why Fleetwood Mac took this seriously. And Bob's right. Danny came and joined the band after Mr. Wonderful, which was recorded not long after this album. So there's 2 albums just with Jeremy and Peter on guitar, and then obviously Then Play On became the album of Danny's major contribution. So Simon, that means we've done the 3 Fleetwood Mac albums. Back to front, of course.
That would be us, wouldn't it? In a nutshell, that would be us.
Look, I'm just reading some Capo Makes Sense. Albatross was the first song Danny recorded in the band by Bob. C sharp is for jazz from Arvin. So that might make sense.
I think I'm making a lot out of nothing.
Yeah.
Frankly, I just wanted to complain about who does a song in C sharp. I mean, honestly,
British dudes.
Yeah,
British dudes
going nuts in a studio.
Yeah. We'll just wait for Brad to come back. So yeah. Thank you, guys. We'll put this with our Fleetwood Mac playlist that we've got set up here on the channel. Good to do Shrine. Good to get that, because we've been talking about Shrine for a couple of years, Simon. So it's good to get that album in our catalogue, and also this album here. If you're watching on a replay, please let us know what you think about this album. And we urge you, if you haven't heard this album, we urge you please to take the 30 odd minutes, the 40 minutes to go and listen to this and be part of the in crowd. Be part of the people that know what's going on. Because when you talk to your friends and they talk about Fleetwood Mac and Stevie Nicks, you can say, "Oh no,
Who?
no."
When are we doing the Bob Welsh years?
You'd have to talk to me seriously offline about that because Bob didn't say nice things about Peter, and I haven't forgiven Bob for that.
No, that's slightly my point.
Yeah.
The interim version of Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah.
Hope nobody sees that. I'll get into trouble.
C sharp's for jazz, man.
Man.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man. Oh, dear.
Yeah. So Brad, we were just saying, great album. We've done all of Fleetwood Mac's albums with Peter Green. This album, Mr. Wonderful, the second album, and also Then Play On. So we've got that catalogue done, and we look forward to doing more Fleetwood Mac albums in the future. There's a lot there. We haven't done the jazz. Here's me talking jazz. We haven't done the chess session, and we haven't done the Boston Tea Party.
Yeah,
we haven't done Tusk.
Oh, do we have to do Tusk?
Tango in the Night.
Oh, gosh. Simon, do we have to do those ones?
Yes, we do.
No.
Well, let's just say at some point
we could choose what to do.
Let's just say
Rumors is
they may get done, but we've got other albums that need to be done as well. Let's just leave it at that.
Sorry, I'm feeling mischievous now.
Yeah,
So,
I know exactly what you're doing.
Apologies, Bob. I'm feeling mischievous about Bob Welsh, but it's really not serious.
No, we certainly, as the Rock Professor said, there's a lot of albums there to do, especially with the Peter Green stuff, and maybe we might do Tusk. Who knows? Not. A show must go on. Yeah, the show must go on, and so must this show.
Yes.
Yes,
Um,
and on.
Speaking of going on, we're doing nothing next week on the channel. There's a couple of things that I need to do behind the scenes, and we might do something during the week. I can't make any promises. We might come back here and do something during the week, but Brad and I have got a couple of plans cooking for the week after. So hit the notification button and we'll let you know what they are. We've got two things in mind, because the Rock Professor won't be joining us in 2 weeks because he's got a couple of things going on as well. But Brad and I will be back with something. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's
Hopefully
clear as
something
mud.
exciting, yeah. It's clear as mud. Not next week. Don't dial in next week. We're all sunning
But the week
ourselves on
after.
the beach.
Yeah.
Not in March.
Keep an eye. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, and make sure you keep an eye out and click notifications. So if something pops up that we decide to do midweek, this and that, there you go, guys.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good.
Awesome.
Brad, well done. Professional ending.
Fantastic. I urge you please to go and check out our friends on our community page. Can I just do something? Our friend Michael has just done a video on. Just give me a second, guys, and I just want you guys to go and check out this. Have I got it here? Just hold on. Our friend Michael has done a video when he was with us, Copy, one of the 24 Nights shows that we've done. And we had Michael come on and he gave us some reasons why he thought 24 Nights was an outstanding album. So there it is there, folks, in the chat. Go and check that out. That's our friend Michael. Hit that subscribe button and tell him that the 5150 show sent you if you haven't already subscribed.
Yeah, 100%.
Thanks, Bob. Do you want to say goodbye to everybody, bro? You got the chat up?
Yeah. So thanks, Bob, for being up late and in Chicago and joining. That's fantastic to see you. Ellen as well. John ZD351. KXM Rocks. Arvin, of course. Thanks, guys, for Brooks Reed. Good to see you, Brooks.
Good to see you, Brooks.
Yeah. Who else? Newest people up the top. I seem to Lean Van Halen as well. Thanks, Lean, for dropping by. Guitar Man 45. Thank you so much for dropping by. I think, and of course, Brett Zeppelin as well. So great to see you all. Hope I got everyone. And we'll see you in. I won't. I'll see you in 3 weeks. God, a lifetime.
That's a pretty good innings off.
Yeah. The boys will be back in 2 weeks. Take care, all. And we'll see you soon. Take it away, Eric, the orchestra leader.